add style and aesthetics in the design process to be able to personalize items is changing at such a rapid pace right now that it's really beyond mention. The typical makerspace, there is a makerspace, I'll just do a shout out to it, called Bridgewire here in town. I've been a member of it for about 3 years. But typically in a makerspace, you're going to find 3 standard pieces of equipment: a CNC, a laser cutter, and a 3D printer. Those machines have very distinct characteristics, but they also have a lot of similarities too. The Shipoko, which is actually this machine right here, is a CNC machine. It's a DIY machine that's been around for a number of years. It was heavily marketed by a company called Inventables out of Chicago. And to my estimate, it's probably about 15,000 of them out in the market right now, as far as the machine goes. Now, right now, these are exclusively being used to do CNC work. I'm going to change that a little bit. So basically, getting back to the typical makerspace and the types of machines that you see in the makerspace, although they are different, they all share one important category. They're all considered Cartesian instruments. So basically, this machine moves along the XYZ axis. And as it moves, it does different things. In the case with this laser head here, it's going to actually shoot a laser beam wherever that head is actually pointing. If it were to have a spindle on here and actually doing CNC work, it would basically have like a drill, like a Dremel drill right there, and would be cutting material away. It actually holds true for a 3D printer. The difference with a 3D printer is instead of having a laser or a CNC machine there, it has basically a plastic extruder. And what happens is you basically layer upon layer actually build up objects from nothing. So basically, one of the concepts that I'm trying to embrace is some similarities between machines instead of differences. What I'm striving to do, my background is software engineering. I actually I worked for GE down in Gardnerville I started out of college in '95. So I've got a heavy software background with robotics and with machinery. And what I'm trying to do is actually create a software package that unifies some of these concepts. Currently, the state of the software actually supports doing both CNC work and actually using laser engraving. So there's some differences from a software perspective of what you're trying to do and your starting point, the materials that you start with, and what you're trying to do with those materials. I'm going to show you a really quick video here that actually runs through some of the software features, and you guys can watch it. There's not a lot of sound. Feel free to ask some questions. I'll throw in a little commentary, and there's some rules here. So the durable controller is basically, this is running an Arduino in the background. And the durable controller is actually a piece of software that's open source that allows the machine to do amazing stuff. This is nice to say. Right here, what we're doing is we're actually opening a vector file, something that you can create in Inkscape or Adobe Illustrator. And you see how it comes up in the software, showing some of the scaling features here, being able to make it large, zoom in. Some of these features over here allow you to basically highlight different items that each one of those lines can represent a vector cut that you're going to do, or in the case of the laser, you might glaze one color or another color. If you're doing laser work and you actually have a larger laser, you typically want to start from the inside out because as the material comes free, you don't want to do that. So this allows you to order the colors. And my mouse work wasn't great when I did this video. And this is just showing some of the detailed scaling features of the software. And you can actually measure your items. Now the color selection is basically if you're dealing with a vector, and the difference between a vector drawing and like a raster engraved image is you start with like a photo for a raster engraved image. But a vector drawing, typically you're following the lines. That's all I mean when I use the term vector drawing. But here we actually select the colors and we actually provide the properties that we're going to do on any given task or cut. And here we're basically just showing the machine job. So like if we're connected to the machine would actually move with that. I'm actually going to skip through the rest of this. This video is running a little bit longer than I planned. This is a second video. This one's a little bit shorter, but it's actually part of our Kickstarter campaign. And it shows some of the photo engraving features. Here we're showing the quick change. So this is the spindle that you would typically see on here. This is sped up at about a 2x factor, but it typically takes about 3 minutes to change it from CNC into a laser. And this is, like I said, it's part of the commercial. Kind of show the idea of how easy it is. One of the things we're trying to do is make it easy for standard users to do really cool things like photo engraving. There's some examples of some of the work I've done on here. You guys can take a look at afterwards. Questions? What do you guys think? Pretty cool.
Okay, so I'm looking because you have both the hardware which turns the CNC into a laser, and then
Okay.
the software.
So when I market this Kickstarter, the only thing I'm actually selling is going to be the software to actually control the machine and this laser head right here. There's some electronics I didn't bring in because I wasn't actually going to fire it up here, but there's an additional power supply and electronics that go off to the side. But the machine itself, I am not selling. That is not part of my business. I'm actually trying to capitalize on machines that are already out there. There's already a large population of these machines out there, and I'm trying to capitalize on that market. There is, and people have talked to me, there is interest in using this on other pieces of other CNCs. It would be on them to actually do whatever modifications they have to do for this mount, but it should be relatively simple to use on other pieces of machinery. But answering your question without such a long answer, I'm just selling the head and the software.
And the software is good for all three.
It's good for doing some CNC work. CNC controlling software is actually very complex. So I've taken a subset of that, which allows me to do the basics. So a lot of people, especially when they're first getting their CNC or they're new to the maker community, they want to do things like cut shapes out of wood or do basic, word type stuff. Software can do that. What it can't do is like complex 3D models. It's not a design tool, and it only uses there's 3 mediums that you're dealing with. You're dealing with like images, which is typically your engraving type area. And then you have vector files, which basically describe lines and shapes. And then you also have STL or object files, which are basically 3D models, which are used exclusively by 3D printers. Currently, the state of the software and what I'm going to release with, at least for this first iteration, is it only works with lasers and CNC. And the CNC, in all honesty, it's to get your feet wet. If you get really good at that, you're going to want to use some of the more complex SolidWorks. But some of the more complex items are very expensive pieces of software. So
don't these machines come with controller software?
No. Well, controller, yes. We'll have software to download it, but what my software does is it basically does a number of different things. Typically in the CNC process, you've got your CAD tools, which allow you to do your 3D modeling. You've got your CAM tools, which basically take those and turn it into machine code. And then you have your controller software that allows you to take what's called G code, which are instructions that are tailored for machine, and download it to the machine. What I've done with my software package is basically you bring up an image and it's like hitting print. Basically, that's kind of one of the things I was showing in the video is there's no, okay, I have to generate the G code and I have to go to a different piece of software to download it. There's a number of different software packages out there for streaming what's called G code to these machines. But actually, the generating how you get that G code in the first place is not a lot out there without going to the more professional packages. And the professional packages typically start at $400 and go up to $9,000. So it's a very expensive proposition. I'm looking at actually marketing the software at $125 a package.
What's it run on?
Right now, it runs on Windows. My intention, I'm a .NET developer, and there's things that you can do with Mono. I do want to get it to run on the Mac, and it should be reasonably easy. It's just trying to.
Do you think? I think a lot of the maker community are very open source oriented type people. What about your Linux and open source?
The open source, I currently am going to open source all of the hardware designs. That's going to be the circuit boards. My intention is at least initially to keep control over the software. I think that's actually where my value really is with the software. There's other people who have done not exactly this take on having a solid state laser. That's another thing I should probably mention really quickly. Is, this uses a solid state laser, which is significantly low power compared to their CO2 lasers, which are quite a bit larger. The state of the solid state market is actually an emerging market. The solid state lasers are becoming more powerful, smaller, and cheaper. There is a lot of advantages to using a solid state laser. With the CO2 lasers, I have one at home, and the tube is literally like 3.5 feet long. And you have a large machine, and you have some advanced optics, and you have some advanced calibrations that go along with that. With the solid state lasers, you can basically put it directly on the gantry, which makes the mechanics of the whole proposition a lot simpler. Oh, there's somebody in the back. Just go ahead. Go ahead.
The description you've given so far, part of it you covered a moment ago, $125 each one of the software. Can you succinctly define who your initial target market is?
My initial target market is going to be people who have bought a CNC machine and who have basically, they are instantaneously going to recognize the value that this head will bring to their machine.
As a follow-up then, the video that you show is somebody who's probably not got a CNC machine. The woman taking the selfie with a dog.
And that's why I use the word initially. The software itself is actually tailored for simplicity. I'm kind of exploring some different options of actually having a manufacturing machine out there with the actual maker of this. I'm in contact with them. Shipoko.com is basically kind of the gateway for this machine. They do a blog every month. I am actually going to be featured in their December blog. I've been working with a gentleman, Winston Roy, back in New York, and he's got a demo unit. We've been exchanging emails. He's been doing images and so forth back there. So again, I'm heavily banking on the initial startup community, but one of the things I'm trying to embrace is more of the software. That's kind of where I see things going long term, is the actual software.
Where are you at with your IT? Is this Apple software?
Honestly, I'm not an expert on that. There are probably issues on the software that are definitely patentable. I have done some, I've got a background in image processing, so some of the things I've done with image processing are definitely patentable, I do believe. But I really haven't looked into that.
I don't remember if you said it already. What's the cost of the CNC and the laser head?
Okay, so the CNC, the starting cost, if you want to build it yourself, and they actually send you all the tools that you need. It's super reasonable. It's $620 and it floats around there. Sometimes they have specials. The laser head, basically the initial early adopters are going to sell for $327. And that's going to include the software? It does. And I'm also selling a software-only package. I'm planning on doing an instructable this month. One of the things that's interesting about the software is you can actually take a $20 Arduino and actually get one of these Chinese lasers that you can get from China for like $600. And you can actually use my software to control those lasers. That is actually the birthplace of this whole project. When I was at Bridgewire, we had a laser that we got in a non-operational state, and we actually brought it up to clearable firmware, and then we basically got the mechanics all working again, and then it was like, well, now what do we do? And I, like 2.5 years ago, started developing software to control the laser at Bridgewire, and then all of a sudden the solid state lasers, there was quite a bit of stuff coming out in the last year. There have been some other successful Kickstarters, and it just kind of led into that.
What else can you do with the laser? Because the CNC is pretty simple. That's a done deal. They already manufactured it.
I've got some examples of the image roster.
I'd like to see more on your video. You show one simple example. What else for your Kickstarter campaign could you promote that the laser can actually do? Outside of, we're going to do the words and the frames and the pictures. What else can you do? The puzzles. Give me a pretty broad example of what you're buying into for a couple $100.
There are some additional examples on the Kickstarter. The video I was trying, the photo engraving is very popular. That's kind of like the cream on low-hanging fruit. I think a lot of people are going to be really interested in that. But there's stencils are also popular. Actually cutting paper and using them for stencils, doing origami cutouts, getting that kind of precision. One thing I've stated on my Kickstarter that people have to be aware of: this is a solid-state laser. It's basically like a 2-watt laser. The laser I have at home is 40 watts. So you're not going to get a lot of cutting power out of this laser.
Also do a lot of machine gaskets with the laser. I'd be interested in the person who do manufacture that.
Not with this laser. If you're doing, if you're doing that kind of work, you're going to want something on a CO2 laser, to be honest. I'm very limited on the range of materials I can get through, and I suspect I'm not sure, but I suspect on the TNC gasket, it would still be too thick to have to actually get through that.
Can you elaborate on materials that you
Yes, you can, from an engraving standpoint.
like you wanted to customize or something like that?
Yes, you can. Well, it depends on the plastic. There's some issues with color, which have to do with the wavelength of the laser itself. So darker greens and reds are going to absorb the intensity of the laser better than a clear color. Blacks are going to work quite well, and that all has to do with intensity. Plastics are absolutely no problem. Acrylic, wood comes out quite nice, as you can see here. Leather, we've done some leather stuff. We've got some pictures that don't have here, but we've done stuff in leather. Some issues with leather, though, is sometimes, depending on the leather, it will like crinkle up and shrink. So you have to have it stapled down pretty well.
At a $1,000 entry point for a new user, that still sounds much more like the hobbyist or the early adopter phase. From your own definitions, when do you expect to move beyond that group of people, and what's your criteria for doing so?
$1,000, I'm not quite sure I agree with you.
So say 600 to the CNC and 300 and change the.
No, I agree with the price. I'm just not agreeing with your definition that it only applies for the doctors and so obvious. I think what I want to attract people to are not just the engineers. I think right now a lot of people who have the CNCs are more the mechanical engineers and so forth. But I want to get a lot of the craft people who are selling on Etsy, those types of people who want to do actually more along the lines of craft work.
Hi there. Do you think there's any possibility to using this technology at some stage in the medical field? You know, the dental kind of medical.
Lasers are quite prevalent in the medical field, and that's not where they start here. I mean, there's things being done, whether it's eye care, I believe dentists are using lasers for cleaning teeth and so forth.
No, I didn't mean that. I mean like making like dental treatment, you know, when you want to customize and medical devices, you know, that type of thing.
Again, you know, I work on my professional level, I work in that market quite heavily. I think once you get into that realm with the regulatory issues that go along with that, you know, spending a couple of $1,000s on a professional machine is like, you know, I don't see that as being a market, long story short.
Where is the laser coming from? Is it something off the shelf from manufacturing or?
GTR is the manufacturer I use. They're basically a company that basically does, they basically, if you open this, oh, I'm sorry, you can't see through these things. But basically, the laser, sorry. The laser itself looks like a little tiny cigar. It's in a copper tubing and it basically has the diode in there. So I'm getting that manufacturing from the gentleman. What that gives me is you can get just the LEDs, but it's quite easy to actually get in the star package. I also have a power modulation unit I'm actually buying from a manufacturer. So a lot of what I'm doing is basically the circuit board is here to actually bring it all together. And then I've got the power supply module that brings it back into the Arduino to be controlled by the CNC. And then all of the mechanics and wiring too is what I'm selling.
Buying those individual pieces, assembling them together, and then selling them for $200.
Yes. Yes, basically.
I'm looking at Kickstarter. How do I find your type dev object work?
It hasn't been launched yet.
Okay.
We're looking at launching this. I'm planning on submitting this week. As soon as I get approval, I'm going to launch immediately. From the standpoint of the approval process, I've heard it can take anywhere from 2 to 10 days for this to be due to me. I'm sorry?
Putting on vinyl signs, could you do that?
Yes. There's thicker vinyls, but like a thin vinyl. I've done leather. I haven't done vinyl yet. But I would assume that would be okay. So I should be careful when I say yes. Sir?
So in addition to your Kickstarter campaign, what is another ask that you might have from this group?
Honestly, I came here mostly to present, and I don't say that out of arrogance, but probably out of the fact I don't know the questions I should really be asking at this point. I'm your typical engineer, and I put the machine together, and I'm very proud of the machine. I've done some really cool stuff with it. I've showed it to a number of people. We were at a Maker Faire in New York, and we actually got 200 people to put their names down on an email list, which if you know how hard it is to get anybody to actually leave their email, I was like impressed.
Let's get started with the Kickstarter campaign. You're missing a digit on your telephone number. Is that on purpose or?
No, it's not. But if you add a 4, you're okay. So it leads into one more 4. Yeah, I missed that. Sorry about that.
So who's the target for the Kickstarter campaign? I don't know, I'm not one of the 15,000 people that own those machines.
Well, again, they're my primary target. I'm hoping to attract people to the show also. So I'm projecting that there are going to be people who are like, oh my God, that's cool. How do you go CNC? There is a Kickstarter going on right now, which basically is a laser 3D combination. And they're projecting to have CNC functionality in the future. And they've done over $1 million right now.
So it looks like you're much more in tune with the creative side of people than the mechanical side. Are you going to?
When you say the mechanical side.
Well, as somebody who, I do a lot of engineering stuff, whatever, it's cool, but it appeals more to the artistic side of me that I'd like to see neat pictures printed out,
right,
or engraved letters that you're custom iPhone cases, whatever. It's more of an art.
Yes.
Product. Are you targeting craft fairs and teaching people that there's a new way to do their craft on these kind of materials?
To some degree, I've been in contact with New York State Institute of Teaching, and Stan still trying to remember, but they're very interested in using our software for like young kids, like to basically do an entry level into like technology. They're putting together basically a Mercedes van, which is going to be a number of different machines in there. And the idea is to go to schools. It's like a makerspace on wheels is the idea. They're going to go to schools and expose people to the technology. And, you know,
Which department would be exposing? Because I can see where you could go to mechanical oriented, you know, like graphic process or whatever, and they would be teaching you something about the CNC aspect of it. And then you go to art classes, take this really cool picture that you bring home.
yes.
And so who in the school would be presenting that?
I honestly haven't, besides Stan, he approached me at the Maker Fair in New York. I should say his grandkids did. I probably would have never got the contact, but he couldn't get his kids out of my booth, and it was like, well, I can't get my kids out of it. This is probably something I don't want to talk about. That being said, I haven't really approached that avenue. Right now, I've been so focused on the hardware and the software, and Kickstarter and getting pages all set up for that. I don't have a clear answer for it. I think the answer would really be both. You know, there are aspects where it could be in an art class, you know, it can be, or even a photography class, I mean, a specialized photography class. I mean, some of the different ways of doing images, and there's different types of images here and different techniques that are available on the machine. Bring a whole aspect of usability. And like you said, you can go over to the CAD drawing, like in a high school, and they can take their drawings and then they can basically either cut it into an engraved image or they can do whatever. That gentleman had a question.
Similarly, related to that, I guess, the getting this into the hands of people generating, interest generating, demand generating awareness seems to be a big thing for what you want to do with it. The maker collectives, the shared hardware environments are a growing thing. Are you pursuing seeding your equipment and software into those spaces so people can decide if they want to take it home with them, or are you considering those your customers first?
It depends on the Kickstarter. I have considered that exact option. If the Kickstarter is widely successful, I would like to actually follow Inventables. Inventables did a program where they actually donated Shiboko to 50 makers spaces in 50 states. And I've actually talked to them about this very issue, but the idea of actually coming back behind them and then that same group of people actually donating the additional laser heads, people who actually have the machines too.
The resources is what keeps you from doing it at the moment?
Definitely.
Was that something you would do if you magically had the hardware and either give it up or give it out?
Well, I actually structured the hardware such that I've got manufacturing capabilities volumes. I could probably handle 3 or 4 units a day, manufacturing directly from home. But if there's some indicators that are suggesting this might be crazy, wildly successful, in which case I need to reevaluate a number of different things, such as injected molding for the heads itself, a 3D printer, and so forth.
How many units do you have to sell a year to be sustainable? And is there a market for that?
Well, the thing is I have a very good job right now, so I can be very sustainable at 0. So I'm actually looking at growing this somewhat organically. I've set for a goal on my Kickstarter 20,000, just to see how that goes. 20,000 would be roughly about 60 to 70 units, which I could deliver easily on my own while still maintaining my job in a period of 4 months, which is what I'm going to stretch the campaign over. Getting it out there and seeing how it goes and getting some feedback give me an opportunity to evaluate the next step going forward. I think, again, my goal is to actually follow this product off with a similar product that's going to do 3D printing. I've already started to evaluate the ability to actually modify the software to actually currently I can do vector files or I can do images. I'm looking at actually being able to do 3D models and STL files and slicing them. That'll add both functionality to the CNC machinery, and it's also what you need to be able to do actually do 3D printing. 3D printing, putting the head on here isn't complicated again. And again, getting back to the whole idea and the term Cartesian instrument, I'm kind of capitalizing off that idea. Well, we have the Cartesian space. I have a machine that's wildly successful. I've got a whole bunch of people out there who have the machine. Let's make it do a little bit.
Once you do get some funding from your Kickstarter program, I would start with get some momentum. Get an artist make some really cool stuff for you, and then get some marketing people.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah, I put it in the hands of a number of different people, and I've had that a little bit done so far. But yeah, definitely good suggestion. Thank you.
So what's the razor blades that go into your system, right? I mean, what's the consumable that you could sell, right? Selling software in a box for laser, that gets you one sale. But people have to put stuff in there to actually get something out of it. So are you selling the paper? Are you selling the leather?
The laser head is a, for the most part, there are no consumables, answering your question. If I went into a 3D printable head, you have consumables of the plastic, you can do cartridges and so forth. But
what do you put in there, if you have your laser head the way that it's configured now, what do you put in there to print stuff on?
This was basically Baltic birch.
Okay. Do you sell that?
I wouldn't be profitable for me to sell it because I can go down to Home Depot and get this for $15 for a 4x2 sheet.
Okay, but for the person who, if you remember, there's a software called Print Shop back in the old days for desktop publishing, and they'd sell you the software, and they'd sell you a bunch of paper as well. And they made sales always over and over and over again.
Yeah, the consumable market is a great thing to get into. I would be very interested in talking to you for suggestions on how I could actually apply consumables to this.
Just look at what your competitors are doing.
They're not.
I just found a competitor that does laser printing, and in there they have a section of their website that has materials, which you can then pick the materials that you want to pair with everything, right?
Yeah, I haven't looked at actually selling different materials on my website.
Think about selling different materials on your website.
That's
Put that into your
Kickstarter.
Kickstarter.
Okay. I thought at Hamilton we do laser handling machines, and we sell kits, and we make so much money off selling the kits. Even more money than the machines themselves.
What's the tip that goes into that?
Yeah, and I know consumables are very profitable. thing about the tip zone, what I think about it is something that you have your customers locked into. There's not really anything I can lock people into with this.
Think about what you can lock them into.
I'm just gonna generalize that, and those questions a little bit, and ask you, do you have in mind what your recurring revenue model is going to be, or is there going to be a recurring revenue model with this?
I have some ideas on that. Some of them I would consider proprietary, where I'm going with that. And it's more of kind of setting up a sharing community that allowed for information to be shared, where you're selling information.
Like the designs themselves.
Again, I don't want to go into too many details on that. It's kind of like a spark in the back of the head, and in a lot of ways, it's a lot of what I'm driving towards.
Could you go into a licensing scheme like Harley Davidson, and where you pay them 50 cents per logo shot, and people can then download the logo, license it, print it on?
Definitely. That would be, you know, the software.
So what's the gray area there? I mean, if you go out and you print a Harley logo on your own piece of wood and put it on the wall, is there a leak there?
Not for me. Technically, it's no different than somebody taking $100 bill and putting it into a scanner and then trying to pass that. Well, it's not the person who made the machine's fault, but you're definitely breaking some laws there. So, but you know, every time somebody copies a movie, that happens all the time. I think probably it's going to be going after those people.
Well, you don't know Harley Davidson. They go after everybody.
Okay.
Well, but I'm just thinking if there was a license.
Right.
They could say,
I mean, it would be really interesting to do something where you had things that you can download from the website out of increased prices, and these were licenses that then were shared revenue, probably going to some manufacturer.
for them. They
Great
could
idea.
logo out there if you want.
Right.
And I just see that if you could look at the motorcycle community, if you look on leather, that it's being customized, just to be able to take a picture of your motorcycle and have it printed on your leather jacket, that would be pretty different on you guys.
We recently had a craft fair here in Reno, and unfortunately I didn't go, but my roommate was there and he was like, Nick, you have no idea. You should have been there. Everybody wants to personalize these items. You know, I mean, these people who are doing anything, you know, from like said leather or something like that, just to sell it to somebody and then turn around and put their name at it at the fair, they would be a huge buyer. The value that would bring to their sales directly at something like the craft and maker fair is pretty amazing. Should go. Any more questions? Oh.
Expanding on that, you could have a whole group of people who set up kiosks in shopping malls, bring in your whatever you want copies out to, whatever. So then you sell a whole package, getting back to consumables. You said there's specific people get an opportunity to set up an entire kiosk of all consumables and print whatever people bring things to me.
There is that capability. One thing you have to keep in mind, again, this is a low power laser, so like this image right here was 4.5 hours to print. Yeah. So the time that this goes, I mean, we're doing basically, I can go down to a 0.1 millimeter scan, you know, over 10 inches by 10 inches, and you start doing the math of how long that actually traverses, going 0.1 millimeter for each one of those 10 inches, and it takes some time. The head is moving at basically about, it ranges. You basically vary the speed to get different effects, but it's anywhere from 600 to 1100 millimeters per minute. So
How can you cut that?
Huh?
How can you cut that?
Well, there's some issues with heat sink design, and right now I've implemented in software and I'm testing, but right now that's only running in one direction, so it doesn't burn on the backstroke. And it's a very conservative, and it's going to be an option in the software. It's a very conservative way to burn, What happens if the laser gets too hot? Then you basically start getting like these missing pixels in your image. But allowing it to cool down on the backstroke was an easy way to guarantee that. I have the software working in both directions, which would cut that from 5 hours to 2.5 hours.
Thank you. Normally I ask final question. It's usually what can this group do to help you? Somebody stole it. So anyway, what I'd like to ask though, it sounds like you're very much the project guy. You really love your tool for a while. Obviously, it's been for the last 2 years. Do you need help in marketing? Is that kind of what you're looking for?
I need help more along the business line, to be honest. I have not even set up a company, and the gentleman asked about IP technology. I really need to review that. I've got some concerns about going on Kickstarter, how that's going to affect me from an IP standpoint. It's definitely not my strong point. The marketing, I've got a sign-up sheet. If you want to leave your email, I can send you out anybody in the group, basically a pre-release on the Kickstarter page, so you guys can have an opportunity to review it. But as far as the marketing goes, I can't say I've done the perfect job, but I had some help for a while, and she helped me out quite a bit. And then she's kind of moving on to her own project at this point. Yeah, shout out to Ashley Jen. She and I were working together back in September, and she went to Europe with me. But that being said, I got the marketing in place to go to the Kickstarter. A lot of it's going to be dependent on the success or failure of the Kickstarter.
Business knowledge, especially legal.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. So make some connections for them. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. I'll just talk about lasers too. Just making awesome powers. It's like, I'm some shots to lasers. Okay. So I'm going to bring up Candace real quick, Miss Will.
Oh, no worries.
Awesome. Morning, everybody. Thanks for coming out today in the rain and kind of snow. Just want to give you guys an update on what's going on here. We've got some new art on the wall that's falling. Sorry about that. But this is a new show we have for the Boys and Girls Club. This is part of their national competition. So when it's all up and not falling off the walls, please take a look at it. Next week we'll have voting available, which is really exciting. You guys can actually pick which one you like the best, and those kids will go on to compete at the National Boys and Girls Club. So it's really cool. We're really excited to be a part of that. And the art reception for that is this Friday. If you guys want to come out, so the kids will be here. Different people from Boys and Girls Club will be here, so we're pretty excited. We have Snap Networking today from 4 to 6 at this back table here. I know I see a lot of you guys there. It's a really great event. We're going to have to start extending that table because we get so many people to turn out for that. And then we've got the jelly on the 17th from 2 to 5. And we're going to be doing some specials on drinks and things that day. So get everybody loosened up for the holidays. So, and as usual, thank you for coming out. We'll see you guys later. I was thinking it'd be really cool if we could do some of those on the printer. Like the laser, like wouldn't that be cool? I would love to do that with kids' drawings. Anyway, yeah, exactly. Okay, so once again, make sure you go to startupdigest.com/digest/Reno. I've been told you can just go to /Reno now, but I don't trust it. But anyway, to sign up for all the calendar of events to keep up to date. I don't think there's anything particular that's coming up. The holidays, so I'm gone. Actually, I have finals, so I'm not quite gone yet. Anyway, though, thank you for coming out to Reno Cups once again. Please come next week. We already have gloves. I'm looking for open. So do gloves 1 or 2 for next week. 2 for next week. And then of course you'll get to vote for the best kid, which is probably not the way to phrase that. Anyway, thanks. I'll see you next week. Hi, how are you? Stella.
That's called voting.
What happened to you? I hurt my shoulder last year. Oh, wow. Okay. So I had rotator cuff